There are moments created by master filmmakers which unleash our childhood fears.
Something can come in and bite you on the neck and turn you into this horrible vampire.
They infuse our nightmares.
The film was so strong that I was sort of worried that I caught some plague off the film.
And terrify us.
Almost every horror movie now has that last little
They push the boundaries.
It's those moments when you think this filmmaker is dangerous.
They make us scream.
For half the movie, I was like,
and jump out of our seats.
First time the shark jumped up, and I jumped. I didn't go out and around like, Daddy. It was just boom, boom.
These are the moments we never forget.
Even Pinhead, who doesn't do a decent, nice thing through 8 movies, but somehow or other still manages to get fan mail from women who would like to bear his children.
Presenting the 100 scariest movie moments, a countdown of the greatest moments of cinema shock.
It was fantastic. It was the most scary thing. We watched it like this, and I still can't watch it all the way through. It really does frighten me.
I first passed on it because I was in one of those crises where I think I've got to do a normal film. And so in this opening where the girl is gutted and everything else, I thought, I just can't do it again. And then I was doing an appearance someplace, and some little kid came up to me, you know, I love Last House on the Left. You should do something that really kicks ass again. I thought, God, I must be getting soft. And I literally called up Bob Weinstein and said, you know, okay, let's do it.
When Scream first came out, I thought, well, is the horror film dead now? Once we make a film that parodies it, the kids are very savvy about, you know, what kinds of rules do you have to follow to not be killed in the horror film. It's really a film about the horror film audience.
I was a huge fan and read the script and thought this is so different than most of them. It kind of made it was like a little bit of a spoof, but it was still really scary.
I had never seen a script that was quite like this. It was a horror film, but it was, and a slasher film, but it was also a murder mystery. And then it was also a soap opera. So I thought, wow, it's got these 3 weird elements woven together. This is going to be good. What Bob Weinstein was able to do was first say, I'm going to put real money into this film, and I'm going to get really known actors and actresses.
I wanted to play Gail Weathers because she was just a real bitchy character, and I thought it would be really fun to play something that wasn't, you know, I was on Friends, and I played this nice girl, Monica, but Gail was just so ruthless.
At the beginning of that film, Craven delivers an absolutely beautifully pitched teenage slasher murder.
It was really a pure Wes Craven kind of setup.
To make a really strong horror film, you need to nail the audience almost immediately. And you don't need to hit them as hard ever again in the film until the ending. And that opening, I knew if I was able to pull it off, would do it.
This is how you do a terrorized teenager gets killed.
You have a killer who, A, is speaking from a cell phone, which had not been done in a film before, and B, is smart.
It just set the tone of the entire movie.
What's your name?
Why?
Because I want to know who I'm looking at.
That gives me the chills just to think. I mean, just to think you're in a house and there's all these windows around you and you don't, and someone is watching you.
Please leave me alone.
Answer the question and I will. What door am I at?
What?
There are 2 main doors to your house, a front door and the patio doors. If you answer correctly, you live. Very simple.
Don't do this, I can't, I won't.
Your call.
You have Drew Barrymore, we feel like we're safe, and boom, she's dead in like a heartbeat, and all of a sudden it's a free-for-all. It's anyone can go at that point.
Because it's become iconic so quickly, it's hard to see it as scary anymore. The first time you ever see the caped figure in the mask with the black cloak, it is scary.
It's all about the fear that artists have that if they've gotten a success in a certain area, that if they change or grow or do something different, that their fans will leave them, and the feeling that their fans will hate them.
I've had some experience with fans that are clearly a little bit loose in their shoes. They don't have, their elevators don't go all the way to the top.
Famous writer finishes his novel, comes down from the mountain. It's a tradition he has. He wrecks his car in a snowstorm.
Kathy Bates comes and rescues him
Saves him.
from the snow. She puts him over her shoulder. She's so beefy.
Yeah.
She carries him back. She puts him in a bed in her house, and you're like, oh.
You got that warm fuzzy. He's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine.
James Caan was completely and utterly stir crazy by doing this movie, and every day he would come to work, and I would say to him, okay, now Jimmy, in this scene, I want you to be in bed.
Most of that film takes place in a bedroom. So, you know, like Hitchcock's Rear Window, to keep the tension alive in a movie like that takes a lot of technique and craft.
The scariest thing about it is just that idea, you know, because I have some nutty fans. And I'm always a little worried, you know.
Love can turn into a really sort of perverted thing.
She's like, oh, did you write that book, Misery? Because I love that book, Misery.
She was so frightening. What made it frightening was the fact that she was so sweet. You could feel like she likes to bake cookies.
The movie doesn't work without her, or without somebody that could, you know, play that character as well.
When I saw some of the dailies, oh, she was to die for. She was so good. She just inhabited that part.
I personally don't get scared at the Freddys and the Jasons, the whole thing, because I know it's made up. I know that, but when it's a real person who actually could harm you, that to me cuts deeper than anything else.
She's got the log, or whatever she's got, that thing, and she kind of puts it in between his feet, and you're like, okay, well, what's she doing there?
It was the ultimate moment for her to make sure that he wouldn't run away.
And there's nothing he can do, and he's just laying there, and he knows what's gonna happen, and his eyes just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I mean, that's just like, okay, it really went south after there.
Annie, whatever you're thinking about doing, please don't do it. Annie, for God's...
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Annie, please!
Boom. Wham! Oh! Everybody went, oh, and squirmed and moved, and it became this very mobile moment.
She put that block between his thing, and then she just clobbers that foot. You're like, no, 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 no. And then his foot goes sideways.
Great shot of the foot. Swings to one side. Now, what it really is it's a foot model that's been filled with jelly.
Andy Scheinman, I think, came up with the idea of putting the block of wood between his feet so that when she hit his ankle would just, go bwang, like a swinging door.
After that movie, I didn't walk for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I just sat on a chair.
I think that right now, the only people that are making real horror movies are the Asian horror films, Japanese horror films. They're so unbelievably terrifying.
Audition, I just found so deeply disturbing on every level. I found it so creepy, I didn't like it.
I never feel creeped out by movies. I just watch them and kind of enjoy them. And that was the first time I watched it, just starting to feel that this movie's creeping me out.
Audition is such a brilliant film because the whole movie is a build-up to the last 15 minutes. And so few films do that anymore. This guy meets this girl, and they set him up as the nicest guy in the world. And he holds this fake audition, and he meets this girl, and he says he's gonna call her. And she's like, yes, I'll wait for your call. And then you see her, and she's staring at her phone. And you're going, oh my God, she's insane. And then this sack just starts rolling around and you hear a human voice, and then it cuts away. That terrified me more than anything.
Slow, and it just kind of like sneaks up on you when it happens. It so shocks you.
So they just build up this tension like a tightrope. You just feel like it's this cable that's gonna snap. And then the last 15 minutes of that movie, you can't even look at the screen.
The girl in the movie is so likable and so nice, and just when the finally shows her in her apartment, and he's like the guy in the bag.
And this guy, he's missing his legs, he's missing his fingers, he's missing his tongue, he's missing his ear, and we see her vomit into a bowl and feed it to him.
That's so disturbing.
Then we go right into the torture scene.
what is going on? You know, just like...
She's there, she's in her white dress with her black leather apron, black leather gloves, and you know she's ready for some meat work.
It really messes with you.
She's so soft and sweet, and her torture weapons are very delicate, very slowly, plunging the acupuncture needles into his chest, into his eyeballs, and then by the time she starts working on his foot, she's just diving into it with this girlish glee.
It's like so out of control.
There's some horror movies I go, well, this is unpleasant. Why do I want to be here? You know,
Living in New York City, I've dated a few psychos, and there's sometimes where you're on a date with a girl and you're like, oh my God, this chick is totally nuts. And Audition is like the ultimate version of that horrible, horrible, horrible date scenario.
Audition remains too real, I think. And genuinely, you think, what were they thinking?
Coming up, a Cinderella story by way of Stephen King. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
Wait Until Dark is based on the stage play by Frederick Knott.
He was very famous because he'd done Dial-In for Murder for Hitchcock already.
Audrey Hepburn, the role you're going to remember whenever you're alone.
Audrey Hepburn, does she have a doll stuffed with heroin or not? 3 criminals are trying to find out if she does, and they're going to terrorize her until she gives it up. What Terence Young, the director, did, which I think was really clever, was actually set it in a basement, and it's all completely enclosed like a prison cell. The reason I think the film works so well is because of Audrey Hepburn. The audience always loved her in anything she did. I mean, they always wanted to protect her. Alan Arkin, who plays one of the greatest villains of all time in this, I think, really nasty. He sort of does it semi-hammy, but semi-evil. It's a brilliant performance.
What a blackout scene does is it forces the audience to fill in the blanks. But this blackout scene, in addition, makes us blind, the way Audrey Hepburn is blind.
During the last 8 minutes of this picture, the theater...
The scariest moment of the blackout scene is where Alan Arkin has been stabbed.
He's moved all the furniture in the way, and she's sort of tripping all over it.
Window.
Alan Arkin leaps out and says, boo! And the audience goes, yeah!
And I remember everyone leaping out of their seat at that moment. It was one of the biggest shocks anybody had had since Psycho.
Suddenly being literally confronted with death. Mortality, am I safe? Oh my God. You know, so it's a very effective moment.
Oh, God!
We actually finished Night of the Living Dead here in Pittsburgh, threw it in the trunk of the car, literally threw it in the trunk of a car and drove to New York with it to see if anybody would want to show it. That night, while Russ Streiner and I were driving in New York, we heard on the news, on the car radio, that Martin Luther King had been shot.
As a young black theater person, it was refreshing to see a film that had what I thought was one of the few African-American leads.
To have a black hero on film was something that was not common at all during this time.
I wanted it to be more about revolution, a revolutionary society, literally, in this case, devouring the old.
Completely outrageous, you know, people, you know, half nude and eating human flesh and everything else. And then at the end you realize, my God, this guy has made a political statement.
That whole image of what we as society do to ourselves in order to sustain ourselves at the expense of our fellow man.
We were trying to make a little horror movie that had a little more to it, that had some, you know, social satire, but we never thought that it was going to ever become what it's become.
Basically, all the people who are zombies were friends of theirs or people who lived locally. They had a friend who was a butcher who just donated all these kinds of pieces of meat for the, you know, body-eating scenes. And it was made with no money at all, and yet it became a huge cult success.
I was playing like in a different state, and I had to ride 2 hours home on my bicycle at like 2 o'clock in the morning all by myself. And I was like,
mix that documentary style with the black and white and people eating people, and you know, and you're in a drive-in, you're in a car, and you hope the car starts at the end of the day.
That's the first time that I was scared. I was really scared by a movie.
Just the absolute relentlessness that no matter where you turned, there was something or someone that would get you and kill you.
There's a sense of claustrophobia in that film that's unbelievable.
It could be a kid, it could be your grandmother, it could be your parents, it could be your wife, your boyfriend.
The monster is the neighbors, and to me, the scariest thing in the world is the neighbors.
Man, that was like, you know, you'd have never seen anything like that.
We were trying to push the envelope a little bit and not cut away when the zombies, you know, start to eat people. We wanted to stay with it.
Oh, baby.
It just opened my eyes. It was like, I've told George this many times, it's like that's where I realized that a horror film can be, it can go as deep as you're capable of taking it, you know, and as high, and as long as you scare the shit out of people.
High school is hell, and the further down the ladder you are, the more like hell it becomes. And for kids like Carrie, it's really like the ninth circle of hell.
The girl no one likes.
We're all sorry about this incident, Cassie.
It's Carrie!
And I said, wouldn't it be fantastic to give them powers that would allow them to get back at the kids who torment them?
The girl with the strange power.
If I concentrate hard enough, I can move things.
It does start out as your typical teen movie.
Just this incredible portrait of a teenage girl.
It really touches a part in you that feels ostracized.
It was such a great film, and she was so vulnerable, and I mean, everything from her first period in the shower, it was so painful, and the embarrassment that she went through, and hey, Norma, she wants a tampon.
And everyone makes fun of her. The girl who lives in that creepy house with her crazy mother.
The relationship between Carrie and her mother, some of the scariest things I've seen on screen.
Her mother was such a whack job.
All the biblical references and calling them her dirty pillows.
Help this any woman see the sin of her days and ways.
That really, really scared me in that film.
It's basically the Cinderella story as done by Stephen King, isn't it? Going to the prom, something horrible happens, she doesn't lose her glass slipper, but she just goes, you know, berserk.
It's horrifying. And then you look at her eyes and you realize something really bad is about to happen.
Carrie lets the bitches have it.
And then at the very end, you know, Amy Irving, Susan Snell.
She's walking down a street, she's in a pretty dress, everything seems very calm.
He asked the actress to walk backwards, and he filmed it in reverse, so it looks like she's walking forwards, but it creates this very dreamlike, very slow, very kind of unnatural pacing.
She goes to the grave and she puts flowers down on the grave. There are two huge African-American men, 250-pounders at least. They're screaming like children. They're grabbing each other around the neck. And one of them says to the other, "That's it. That's it. She ain't never gonna be right. And I looked at my wife and I said, this movie's gonna be huge.
Coming up, a massacre inspired by the power tools at Sears. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
Silence of the Lambs was the first horror movie that swept the Oscars since One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Jonathan Demme sent me the script, and I thought, this is the best horror script I've ever read. And the beauty of it is, the monster was not a creature. The monster was a man.
Buffalo Bill was a scary-ass killer. Totally insane and totally terrifying, but isn't trying to be scary.
The dance that he does.
It puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
He's sewing the skin together of all the women that he's murdered.
The character of Hannibal Lecter, who was just so appealing to the public. He's just the most kind of sophisticated individual you can imagine, who manages to kind of manipulate people around him and spectators into actually forgetting the fact that he's a cannibal.
If you met him at a party, you would want him to like you.
There's always the joke that he likes to eat his victims with Chianti and, and fava beans.
Hannibal Lecter is, if anything, operatic.
He's the kind of guy you want to quote, you want to hang out with. You're on his side also in a lot of the film, which is really upsetting, I think, to a spectator, that the film really tricks us in a lot of ways into kind of being on Hannibal's side, as opposed to Buffalo Bill, who's, in a lot of ways the real monster of the film.
When he escaped it and killed the guard, he killed him gleefully. He killed him in a way that said, "Ow, I'm out of here, man."
When he splays and butterflies, that guy, when he escaped that cage, I mean, that is nasty.
He's in a cage. He's in the middle of this huge room.
Out there somewhere, he still wants to eat people.
I had my older brother with me, and we saw it at the movies, and I had to go to the bathroom afterwards, and I made him come into the girls' bathroom with me.
I was ahead in the 60s, and I don't mean I was ahead of other people. I mean I was ahead. Dropped a lot of acid, did a lot of peyote, got stoned, went to see 2001, kind of like, oh, wow, I was thrilled at the idea that he was going to make my book into a film.
So many people, you hear the soft people go, yeah, I don't really like horror movies, but they always love The Shining.
It was so eerie and strange, and it's one of those movies that you had to see a few times to actually uncover more and figure out.
You have a family, which you can already sense is having issues. Going to a hotel in the middle of nowhere and being left to take care of it with no one else there.
You're scared for them before anything really starts to happen.
Most horror pictures, when the scary stuff starts, then they find the phone's out and the MR's right. Here, we knew that at the beginning.
They're so isolated, and the quiet is what gets to me.
The hotel was given all the space in the frame, and the characters were often quite small within the space, and so you're feeling that the hotel is becoming a character in the film.
You feel the cold, and you feel the loneliness, and you feel the sort of weirdness.
Jack Nicholson's son on that tricycle.
On the wooden floor, and then over the carpet, and then the wooden floor and the carpet, and just the sound effects there, and it's weird, but it gives you this creepy kind of sensibility.
One of the most terrifying images from that film are the two little girls.
Which scare me more than Jack Nicholson with an axe.
Come play with us. Come play with us.
It's something that's been satirized since. But the first time that you see it, it's dreadfully unsettling.
The scariest thing about that movie is the things that are unexplained.
There's the scene where at the end where Shelley Duvall's running through the hotel and she looks down all these different corridors and she just sees a guy in a bear suit and another guy in a tuxedo, and there's some kind of sex thing happening. You don't know what's going on, but you know it's not good.
But when Jack Nicholson goes into that room, there's like the beautiful woman in the bathtub, and he's kissing her and turns into that hideous woman. It's disgusting.
You don't know whether the horror that takes place is the product of the hotel or is the product of the Jack Torrance character.
The most frightening part in the movie is where Shelley Duvall goes downstairs and she looks at the novel that Jack Nicholson has been writing all this time.
Picks up that top page and sees the words, "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," written over and over and over again on reams and reams of pages in different configurations.
What's scary is the look on Shelley Duvall's face, and it's wordless great acting.
You realize not only that he's going crazy, but how long he's been going crazy.
How do you like it? That to me is one of the scariest moments in all of movies.
That's a truly frightening thing, to realize that you're living with somebody that you don't even know.
I was in a shopping mall, and the crowds were closing in. I was wondering, how in the hell can I get out of here? And as I had that thought, I found myself, I was standing in the hardware department. My focus from the crowd racked focus into a close-up, and there's this display of chainsaws in front of me.
What happened was true.
Toby is this quiet, self-effacing, sweet man who is capable of thinking ways that you wouldn't dare think.
And one of the things a piece of fiction like Texas Chainsaw Massacre could present to us is that this is the real thing.
Like a snuff movie or a documentary or just some newsreel footage. It didn't feel like a movie.
The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America.
Yeah, here's some. Stop! Stop!
I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre mostly like this.
That's just an all-around creepy movie. Like, you just feel disgusting. Yeah, that's like I gotta take a shower movie.
I think it got banned actually in New Zealand, and it was before the time of video, and there was just no way to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But a company in England released it on Super 8. I remember being so affected by it that I watched it, and as soon as it was finished, I wound the reels back and I started it all over again.
This was a movie where it's very much about the killers and what goes on in their world and what happens, and it's so disturbing and creepy.
They're at the dinner table every night, you know, they're respecting their grandfather, but at the same time, they're, you know, eating flesh.
Putting the hammer in Grandpa's hand to try and help him club his last victim it's really funny. It's sick, but it's really funny.
And it's another one where you watch, you go, are these actors, or did he just find crazy people to be in a movie? But boy, these crazy people sure can't act well.
The way it was shot in daylight, so unconventional, complete horror.
There's no doubt that the scene where Leatherface just suddenly comes out of that doorway, and it's very naturalistic, and you're kind of getting bored, and you think, come on, what's going to happen? And suddenly, whoom, and bang.
And Leatherface grabs him, just hits him, and there's this,
oh, and it made that crack sound, and then boom, you're down. Hello?
Slams the door and you see this.
He's in the lair now. He's in the cave of hell.
You don't see anything in that movie. It happens behind closed doors. And your mind creates what happened.
And that's the genius of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is that it's essentially a bloodless film, yet it's remembered as being one of the goriest, bloodiest films of all time.
Coming up, Evangelist claims Satan was actually on this film. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
Whenever you're in the shower and you can't really hear,
Psycho is the most shocking movie of all time.
I still envy anybody who doesn't know what Psycho is about and who goes to see it for the first time.
Hitchcock said, no one can come in after the movie again. And he had to convince theater owners that this was worth their while to do. And of course, it was an enormously successful device.
Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel.
Psycho was a novel by Robert Bloch. It was based pretty loosely on the real-life case of Wisconsin cannibal killer Ed Gein.
People lived alongside Ed Gein for ages, and then they discovered that he was a necrophiliac. The terrifying monster may be the guy sitting next to you.
Anthony Perkins, up until that point, had been playing the boy next door.
And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
This was about severe mother issues. He had a very controlling mother.
Norman!
Yes, Mother?
Who's that girl you're talking to, Norman?
Oh, she's a nice girl, Mom. She's really, oh, you would love her.
She's a whore! A filthy whore!
I think some of her clothes are still in this wardrobe.
It's not particularly showy. It was made on the cheap.
All of the people that worked on his television show were working on the picture.
The idea of killing off the main character of your movie 30 minutes into it, you know, is just so brave.
She's gonna be safe. She's a big star.
You think you see the stabs, you think you see the knife going in the body, you don't. It's all very elliptical. Bernard Herrmann's music. How simple are those violins just sort of like screeching away in the background, but how effective is it?
What the shower scene did was set you up.
The only person that's left for you to relate to is Norman Bates.
When he puts Marion's body in the trunk of the car and drives it in the bog and it sinks and then stops, we, the audience, are going, oh my God, he'll get caught.
The scene where I jumped was Martin Balsam's coming up the stairs.
When we see that door open a crack, we are terrified for him.
Every muscle is tense, everything about your body is tense.
The way in which the scene is constructed and shot is like a dream.
And when he's falling down the stairs, it's so surreal looking.
My stomach dropped out the first time I saw it because I felt like I was falling backwards.
It's almost like, okay, reality has just been killed.
Yeah, I went nuts. It was terrifying.
The victim tumbled and fell with a horrible crash.
Every slasher film, no matter how exploitative or cheaply made, has a dark, threatening psychosis. And every psychological thriller, no matter how polished or pretentious, has inside of it a slasher film waiting to get you. And Hitchcock invented them both.
Something beyond comprehension is happening to a little girl on this street, in this house. A man has been sent for as a last resort to try and save her.
Things happened that were beyond anything we had ever seen. We were shocked into terror.
I know people that, as a kid, the adults that went to see that movie and were like in therapy afterwards.
Billy Graham, the evangelist, said that there was an evil hiding in the celluloid itself.
That was the one time that I fully felt like this filmmaker has no system of morality or ethics or scruples about what he is going to show, and that's really scary.
To really reach deep down into the chill factor of your soul, you know, that's The Exorcist.
The first night where Mom's gonna let me babysit my little brother, so it's just the two of us home alone. We're like, let's watch The Exorcist. That was a good move.
I told my mom that I snuck in to see it, and I think I got in trouble, but I needed to tell her because I wanted to get grounded, so she would like hover over me a little.
Strangely enough, there's no gore and there is no sex in it, despite the crucifix masturbation sequence.
It's those moments when you think this filmmaker is dangerous. I think it's that sense that this guy is dangerous. He's going to harm me psychically, you know.
It's happening to this little girl who's done nothing wrong, and there's no reason for her to deserve any of this. And the most horrible force in the world has taken over this little girl, and it's done in such a realistic way.
Battle between good and evil, and the power of Christ compels you, and you totally buy it. It takes a basically ludicrous premise. You know, Satan is in the body of this little girl, and somehow the church, when they're not molesting young boys, will protect us from Satan. And it makes you totally believe it.
The first time that the little girl spoke in the demon's voice, I mean, that was shocking.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell. That was the worst, the absolute worst.
She starts speaking in Italian to the one guy, and he's like, Mama? No, devil!
And all of a sudden, like green vomit just spits out, and she spits it on a priest.
Dump the holy water in buckets!
I don't remember a second of wondering how they did something in The Exorcist. It was like, oh, you know?
It was almost like a documentary of what would happen if the devil possessed somebody.
When she just turns and her eyes change, and I just remember feeling this like,
you didn't see, well, that's what I expected Demon to look like. It was like, oh my God.
Oh my God, look at what is happening to her head.
Dick Smith, who is one of the great makeup effects artists of all time, built a complete body and a complete duplicate head that would be able to do that.
That moment when her head spun around, a Hispanic lady stood up from her seat, screaming in Spanish, and ran out of the theater.
Begone! In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, by this sign of the Holy Cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit. Damien!
Amen.
God, defender of the humans!
The hair on the back of my neck went up, and I'd never had that happen before in my life. I thought that was just a figure of speech. I was so frightened, I considered running out of the theater. It was like, you're just like hanging on.
Your brain is completely befuddled by it.
When you suspend disbelief like that, when they make you in the moment, that's a great film.
Coming up, the scariest moment of all time. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
You got sort of the best of both worlds, of the fantasy world as well as the reality.
It was unknown times 1,000.
All of that terrifying, horrifying, and gross out all was used in the movie Alien by Ridley Scott.
It's Halloween in space. Simple idea, and you play it through.
Alien, they always classify it as science fiction, and it's not science fiction, it's gothic horror.
It solves the ultimate problem of the haunted house. Why don't those people just get out of the house? Well, in Alien, there is nowhere to go.
And it even had, like, you know, Harry Dean Stanton going, here, kitty, kitty. I mean, it had classic old dark house put in this new setting.
That run-down, beat-up-looking future.
Any movie that's that claustrophobic is scary.
If you look at Kubrick's 2001, that was the white-collar space. And then you look at Alien and all the Alien rip-offs, it's blue-collar space.
But when you first saw that Giger design for the first time, it was so insane.
Giger's design of that creature was just totally nightmarish. The way Ridley shot it, I couldn't comprehend what it was, and I couldn't really see it.
You never saw that creature until the very end. You saw a tongue, you saw a face, you saw slobber.
Some of those aliens had like really weird tongues.
It's a very sexual film because it's about people getting violated.
When that thing was on John Hurt's face,
yeah,
and then like the, you know, its penis went into his mouth.
It inseminated it.
Whatever it was, whatever it is that went into his throat.
I don't think it was penis.
I think it was alien penis.
The absolutely hands down scariest scene in Alien is the scene that looks as though it's the calm after the storm.
Ridley Scott kind of lures you in with this naturalistic
conversation. And I think there's a naturalistic conversation which feels very much like improv.
It's all normal, and they're eating.
Sort of having dinner, basically, eating those sort of space crackers.
And then John Hurt starts to cough.
A lot of his success had to do with the misdirection. You just absolutely did not expect that to happen.
Completely unexpected, and it goes right to one of the core fears of human beings, is that you don't want anything to get inside of your body.
I just felt like I had gotten such a sucker punch.
What the hell is going on? That got me. I had to change my underwear.
And that look on Veronica Cartwright's face when she gets sprayed with the blood, I mean, it's real. It was terrifying.
And that wonderful little moment where it goes before it runs away, because it was so startling. They made it very real. They took something ridiculous and made it very real.
I sat there frozen like this for the rest of the movie until it was over, and then I went outside and I threw up everywhere. Alien was the first movie that made me barf. That's why it always holds a special place in my heart.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill.
Some ideas are so obvious, they're right in front of us all the time, we just don't see them.
A mindless eating machine.
How could we not have known there was the best, exciting, suspenseful movie to be made about a fucking huge white shark that ate you up?
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I remember leaving the theater. We went to like, I don't know, Denny's or something, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I was in the bathroom in Denny's, still somehow feeling as if I was gonna be attacked by a shark.
I'm in a swimming pool with chlorine, and I'm like, shark. Shark is coming.
The theater was so sold out that I had to sit a few rows back. And I remember the first time the shark jumped up, and I jumped. I didn't go out and around like, Daddy. It was just boom, boom, and I was 2 rows ahead, and I was in his lap.
The idea of really being eaten by an animal came home right into my DNA.
It's not as if a shark never ate anybody. It's not a made-up scare.
No matter what you do, it keeps coming. And every time it comes again, it's angrier and hungrier.
You see the point of view of Jaws, and they're these little flailing kid legs.
Jaws is one of those miracle movies where apparently everything went wrong that could go wrong.
There was this amazing mechanical shark, and it didn't work, so he couldn't shoot it as much as he wanted to. That's one of the things that helped build our terror.
To be quite honest, I mean, the shark actually delivered, you know, which for its time was quite remarkable. When Roy Schneider's chucking the offal off the back of the boat and he's talking.
Yeah, why don't you tell the Quinn to come down here and chow me? You gotta do that. And then the shark pops up.
And he has that perfect, like, reaction where he bolts up, and it's like the whole audience had that same reaction, too.
The music was an amazing element.
It's the portent of something. That music makes you know, uh-oh.
The film opens with a scare.
The girl goes skinny dipping. She like rips off her clothes, runs into the ocean. She's like feeling good. Hey, what's your name? Huh? What?
She goes into the water, and the guys following, they're kind of drunk.
It's nighttime and I'm in the ocean. What could possibly happen?
The girl, how you doing? I mean, you're thinking of her legs being chopped off or the side of her being bitten. You're not seeing it, but you're thinking it.
Such a vulnerable feeling, and in this vast ocean where help could be so far away.
right to a fear that you have, that everyone has. That when you go swimming, something like that could happen at a moment's notice.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Tuesday, Bravo takes you back into the world of the Real Housewives. New beginnings.
The children are blending really well.
And a new neighbor.
I am the hottest housewife in Orange County.
The Real Housewives of Orange County. Caution.
Adults at play.
The new season starts Tuesday at 10/9 Central.
Only on Bravo.